experience the full power of the dark side. Good.
We will deal with your rebel friends soon enough.
What the? Ah!
Back.
Prepare to fire.
Oh no!
Hello and welcome back to Star Wars Beyond the Stars for episode number 33, recorded on Wednesday, May 20th, 2015. I'm your host, Fred, aka Sith Lord Corv. And joining me tonight is the reigning commander of Sith Intelligence, Agent Louis Olan.
Hello, Fred. Hello, everyone. Twitch, Hitbox, YouTube. What is going on? And as always, time for tea with Sith Intelligence.
I haven't gotten tea yet.
Don't worry, it's on the way. Don't worry. New droid. New serving droid.
Is it that one that they just gave you for free?
Yeah, I'm trying him out.
He's terrible. In fact, I took parts out of yours to fix ID-10T. And Treegate one of the gears.
Goopa noopa.
Then this may not be tea we're drinking. Okay, we'll have to chance it.
Just do this. ID-10T, fetch the tea. Oh, what's he spraying all over me? Oh.
Ooh, yee.
It burns.
Might be hydraulic fluid. Okay, we'll have to clean that up later. All right. No one saw that. No one saw that.
And also with us is the captain of the ship, Captain Kimbray, a.k.a. Paige.
Hello, everybody. Lou, how does it feel working for Lana Benico? That's your boss, buddy.
It's great because I know better than to say anything bad. Because she'll just strike me down.
He apparently loves it so much he took the liberty of hitting her in the face with a brick several times.
Now, she already looked like that.
Ooh, burn.
Virtual burn. Anyway.
You can find out more about our show at StarWarsBeyond.com. We're available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and SWTORnetwork.com. You can like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/StarWarsBeyondPodcast. You can tweet us. The show is at StarWarsBeyond. And our usual record time is Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at hiphox.tv/StarWarsBeyond. And Paige, what's coming up in the Captain's Log tonight?
Coming up in the Captain's Log, we have our last week in game. Tonight's discussion, is it time for a new class? Also, we have Agent Olan's Intelligence Report, where Lou will present the I can't. Say it again, Lou?
The Terran Tatek.
The Terran Tatek. Plus, the weekly winner of the Agent Star Wars Trivia Question of the Week and your feedback in our community holo feed.
And as always, we do have something quick to mention, although maybe not so quick once we get through it. So, earlier today, Tate Watson posted an early draft for the patch notes for 3.2.1. Alright, they're up there on the dev blog portion of the forums. And we do have some highlights. The big one that comes to mind is the Nar Shaddaa Nightlife makes a glorious return. Head to Nar Shaddaa between June 9th, 2015 at 5 a.m. Pacific Time or 12 Greenwich Mean Time, and August 25th, 2015 at 5 a.m. Pacific and 12 Greenwich to test your luck on Smuggler's Luck and Kingpin's bounty slot machines to earn unique prizes.
I'm a bit disappointed that they haven't mentioned anything about new prizes this year yet.
Yeah, I was curious about that. But again, remember, these are the early notes. So Tate did say at the end of it that, things are subject to change, and he'll update them and change them as they come along.
Well, I don't think we added it in the quick dimension, but they also put in the patch notes that they finally, in this patch, are fixing the missing achievements from last year's version of this. It only took almost a year
later. But as long as they're fixing it.
It's like 9 months later or something.
Yeah, did you have to actually conceive it and just give birth to it? 9 months? My gosh, really? And the next thing we wanted to highlight is a change to the resolve system. While on full resolve, players now receive a 50% slow in place of any effect that would normally immobilize them. This slow effect has the same duration and conditions as the immobilize effect that would occur under normal circumstances. For example, if the immobilize can break early when damage is taken, then so can the slow that replaces it. Immobilizing effects still do not generate resolve. They simply react differently when they encounter a target that has a full resolve bar. These changes only apply to PvP combat. And again, please remember, these are early draft notes. Nothing solid.
So basically, instead of when your resolve bar is full, nothing happens to you and nothing affects you, now you're at least going to be snared, basically.
Right. You're just under a snare. 50% snare. Kind of sucks. Anyway. Various class changes. There are too many to mention, like Inigo would say. Sum up, just go to the website. Take a look at them. Everyone has something in there to look at. Also, another big highlight, numerous Zyos missions have been fixed. For example, players can no longer access the custom walker Auspice when not on the mission on the house. Players can no longer be granted increased movement speed while not mounted by using the custom walker Auspice from the mission on the house. That is actually pretty fun. I like that.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I'd like doing that one. Civilians saved during the mission, temporary residents, now consistently give proper credit. Yeah, I had a problem with that one too. It is no longer possible to scan a defense turret through a crashed ship on the mission powerless. Scan data credit now shares between all group members on the daily mission Death of a World. Thank you, gaming gods.
Paige and I had a problem with that one. That's the one where we started scanning the stuff, and once one of us would scan it, the person that scanned it would get credit, and then the other person couldn't scan it at all.
Yeah, and it would have to wait till it refreshes on the server, and meanwhile some jerk comes around and goes, "Oh, beat you to it."
No, the way it happened for us, it wouldn't refresh. We had to actually ungroup and refresh the quest to be able to scan those things.
Oh, man.
It was horrible.
Yeah, I just gave up to the point where I just kept wandering around the entire zone hoping for a body I could scan. And that's killed a lot of my time. Well, I should say not killed, but added a lot of time to that quest.
Is that quest? I thought this is the one where you have the micro binoculars and you have to scan the remnants of the stuff.
You mean scan the turrets? I'm trying to think.
No, like there's pieces of buildings and trees and all kinds of stuff.
Yes, yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah,
I think with the other one where you have to scan the bodies, that one's just
Yeah, that one was horrible. Finding bodies was terrible.
You think of the Death of a World, there'd be bodies everywhere, but no.
Well, we tried waiting at one just to scan the body every time it refreshed, and then sometimes the body would be a dud and it wouldn't update the quest.
Yeah, I had the same thing where it'd tell you it could be scanned and it wouldn't do it anyway.
Oh, we should also mention, though, that in these patch notes, this is where they started that big overhaul to Sentinels and Marauders, the one that got a developer threatened.
Oh, yes.
If you look at the class changes, they have like a paragraph for those two classes, and everybody else has like one little change.
Yeah, one or two minor things here and there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're not going to read out the changes because pretty much everybody else is talking about that and beating that into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But it's out there. You can look up the patch notes, see everything that they're intending to do. And again, if you don't like the changes, give them constructive feedback. Don't threaten anybody.
Yes, please. The best thing you can do is just, if you're going to voice your opinion, just give them your ideas. Exchange the ideas on the forums. That's why they're there. Tell them what you think and how you could improve it. You never know.
And then we'll just go ahead and move into the captain's log on that note. And Paige, what have you been up to over the last week?
First, I'm going to tell you what I didn't do, and then I'm going to tell you what I did. I did not do the Gree event. I didn't want to, and no one could make me. I have no interest in that, and everyone I know who does it has complained about it. So, no thank you. But I still haven't... I'm sorry. Someone going to say something?
But you're the black bisector.
Except I'm not.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Except for the public side.
I still haven't been PvPing. It's really been a while in SWTOR, but I've been getting my fix with PvP in a different game, and I'm not sorry about that. I haven't been doing any of the cosmetic stuff with the builder. I like my characters the way they are, and I've basically taken their current outfit, made it their cosmetic, and then just continued that way. I know people are just making all sorts of outfits. I don't have all that time, and I'm picky. I know what I like, and that's what I stick with. What I actually am doing is dailies, tons of dailies. I need all the credits. All the credits. I also need to bash some heads for people that owe me credits, and for once, that's not Corv.
Wow.
I'm kidding. Why am I hoarding money? I have no idea. Because there's nothing I even want to buy right now.
For the next time, I need a loan.
You know what? That must be it. I'm just like building up the reserve for the next time you want to take out a loan. I'm like, all right, this time, buddy, this much interest, and you have this many days to pay it back.
I owed her $800,000. I only borrowed $8K.
That is not true. $8K, I would have just been like, whatever, but it was $800,000.
Interest.
No, it wasn't. That was the initial. We're not even gonna. You know what? Never mind.
I let you drive my ship.
This is not your ship.
It was, and now it is.
Also played around on my commando, just randomly joining pugs for the heck of it and healing them in tacticals, and then when I'm done, just leaving. And I just don't really have much fun playing that character. I find it so boring. I find operative healing is just much more fun for me, and maybe I just need to make my operative a PvE character, and that makes me sad to do, but maybe I just need to do it.
By the way, General Garza said to bring your trooper to the Senate Tower on Coruscant. It's very important.
I will not. She has my number.
And also, Theron Sean wants to meet you there. He's going to give you all your Forged Alliance quests there from the Senate Tower.
No, thank you.
It's like, you called me halfway across the galaxy to have me come to you just so you could tell me in person.
To go somewhere else.
You know, it's like, I was just there.
I'm glad you're here. I need you to go over there.
Wouldn't it be great on April Fool's Day if every trooper logged in? They're like level 60 plus, and they look and it says, visit General Garza at the Senate Tower on Coruscant. And they go in there, and it's a phase. They walk in, and she's just like, I'm glad to see you. It's been a while. And then they get kicked out of the phase.
Yeah, I just couldn't understand that. I mean, that is one thing I hate at MMOs, the FedEx questing, the FedEx storyline, where it's like you're constantly going back and forth, doing the same thing, essentially. And it's just like, I think one of the excuses that she keeps using is, oh, it's not a secure line. Then why the hell are you calling me in the first place if it's not a secure line? Anyone from Sith Intelligence or Imperial Intelligence can say, oh, wait, something's going on because Garza just called one of their operatives back.
I don't think she cared about that as long as she didn't put the mission details over the terminal. I mean, you could tell just how secure her methods are anyway. That's why Havoc defected, and nobody knew that was coming. I mean, come on, how does an entire squad defect and nobody has any inkling of what's going on? And Jorgen doesn't even think that's the least bit suspicious that they ordered the newest member of Havoc to stay behind while they go secure the thing you just located.
Yeah.
See, in my case, he was too busy looking at my awesomeness and that all that, what did he call it? Some type of titanium, isn't it? He told me I made it look good. He flirted with me. Bless.
That's disgusting. All he did for me was blame me for killing somebody that I was supposed to meet. He was dead when I got there.
He was dead when I got there. That sounds like something someone would say when they were on trial for murder. He was dead when I got there. I don't know what happened.
He was dead when I got there, but I did threaten to kill his wife.
Oh yeah, that quest. Yeah.
Everybody knows who you mean. Yeah, I threatened her too. I'm like, negative. Because she had a smart mouth on her. I was like, no.
I love... You find out that there's like a bunch of bombs laid that are going to blow up a bunch of Republic soldiers. And my dude was like, I don't want to go do anything about that. And Jorgen's like, you're not going to let fellow soldiers die on my watch. So he makes me go do it. And then I come back and they're like, oh, you're a hero. You saved those guys' lives. And Jorgen was like, oh, they wouldn't consider him a hero if they knew what a fight he put up for going to save them. And my dude looks at him and goes, it wasn't my mission to save those people.
You know, I did play my commando completely dark side the whole way through, and I kept Jorgen with me the whole time because I really, really, really didn't like anybody else. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of him, but everyone else, they got on my nerves so bad I couldn't stand them. And I was a healer, so I didn't need a Lara Dorn. He was with me the whole way. He loved most of my dark side decisions, and he and my trooper, she's Imperial, are romantically involved, and he sends her, they're not emails in the game. I say email because that's just the easiest way to do it, but he sends her notes that she gets in the mail, and they're so awkward because I'm one of those people where I can't pretend to love someone. I just can't do that. And I don't, as a real person, I don't love Jorgen. And he'll send these messages, and at the very bottom, it'll be like, love you. And I'm like, ew. I'm such a little kid. I'm like, ew, but really, ew.
Love you, I happen to attach my latest hairball. Here you go.
Oh, wouldn't that be gross? You're like, oh, Arik is so romantic dinner. And you're like, oh, God.
You pull it out and click on it, and it pops up above your character's head, minus 500 affection.
Yeah, well, there goes that calamari scampi dinner. Oh.
Calamari. He would eat that. It's like, oh, what do you feel like tonight, dear? Let's go get sushi. Again?
You know, if Arik wasn't your first companion, you would wonder that when you first get your ship, why there's a wooden box filled with sand in it.
Oh my. You guys are being mean now. He's civilized. He knows how to use the latrine.
Hey, that black matter has to come from somewhere to put in the engine.
Oh, are we doing the Futurama thing? Where's Scruffy?
Belay. Belay.
Summon the help. Trika's peed again.
Goopa noopa.
Okay. We got off topic. Lou, what did you do in game?
Well, due to recent work schedule changes, I didn't have a lot of time this past week for a lot of gaming. So what I did do, I did focus on just the Grease stuff. Because remember, so close. So close. And again, we don't know when they're going to bring this back again, so I'm glad they actually extended it. Because I was actually able to get through hero status and just made it champion. So, again, just going to hoard up all the rip tokens, so that when the next reset happens next week, I'll just keep popping those.
Hey, I think that helps here.
Oh, good.
Oh my. What
Yes.
kind of mess do we have now?
Did you bring your vibro mop?
Oh man, the Imperial Star Destroyer Vibro Mop 9000.
Well, if you have one of those, what do we need you for?
Pull the ripcord.
Just keep it away from small droids with malfunctions.
Well, as you heard, Kimbre called you up here, so see what she wants.
Treat Pete, that's what I want. I want you to clean it up. In front of me, preferably, so I can be all condescending about it.
Give me a wonder.
I'd be like, oh, what you doing there? Cleaning up, P? Mm-hmm.
Let me get the rubber gloves and the full body suit to protect against that nasty stuff.
You really do need a full suit. You look like a beekeeper in that thing.
Scruffy. I hope you saved your Rakghoul suit.
Oh, yes.
So what else did you do, Lou?
Well, one thing I forgot to write in the notes is that, I was able to, again, complete some more outfits for a bunch of my characters, so I'll be adding them to those designer tabs pretty soon. Yeah, and unfortunately, that pretty much, like I said, not much gameplay this week, so I had to make it up for it in the next few days.
Alright, and as for me, I started doing the Gree event seriously for the first time ever. Like, it's been popping up pretty much since it started, and I just haven't been interested in it. But this time I decided to dabble in it a little bit, so I went out there. And I didn't realize just how hard it was to actually get the Gray Helix components. That there's only one real daily that awards those things.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrible. Because it happens to be a heroic, which half the time there aren't enough people around to do that with.
Yeah, I've been lucky every time it's come around to where, there are just enough people to do it. So, knock on wood, gaming gods have been kind to me so far.
Well, unfortunately, when I've done it, there's normally one or two people that join up with me. And then, no matter which faction I'm on, it never fails. People from the other faction come along and flag themselves and stand right up against the mob so we can't use any AoEs.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've seen that happen too. It kind of sucks. It's like, come on, we're all in the same boat. We all want to finish these damn quests.
I had one guy do that to me on my last character that I was on. He came over there. There was two of us. We were doing this mob, and he came over there and just stood there flagged. I guess he was probably in a group, and him and his buddies were all spread out throughout the map looking for people to grief.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes and stands right up next to the mob. So the mob, somehow he gets aggro on it, and it's that big elite guy for the heroic. So I just turned around, I targeted him, and I beat his ass and killed him. And then, as soon as the mob died, I knew what he would be doing. He's calling his friends because now I'm flagged. So as soon as the mob dropped, I went into the GSF tutorial and unflagged myself and came back out. So I was standing there as a whole group of Republic came gathering around me and couldn't do anything because I wasn't flagged anymore.
Did you wave?
No, actually I did rude gestures.
That's even better.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. And I also started doing the Forged Alliances story on all of my Shadowlands characters that are 55 or higher. And I have plans to hit all of my Jedi Covenant characters next because I have several ones that I didn't take through that yet, and I just want to knock it out. Mm-hmm. And my operative, when he came out of there, they gave him a nice blaster rifle that happened to be golden and reflective. And because I have him dressed up like an exchange boss, I'm running around with this golden thing, and I'm like, I'm the man with the golden gun.
Yeah, that I was going to say, oh, look at you, gold member.
And I have been investing into cosmetic outfits in order to make my characters look like other classes, like I've hinted at before. And I've been looking at regen items to help that along because, if you're playing as certain classes, it doesn't look right when your regen is clearly another class. Mm-hmm. But there aren't a whole lot of them that are themed to really fit a different class. And I did notice one thing, that regen items break stealth, which I know your normal regen would break actual stealth, but when you die and you first pop up in your stealth for like 10 seconds, if you use a regen item, it'll immediately break that stealth. Whereas if you use your class regen, you can use that while you're stealth from having just died.
Right.
I think that's an oversight that needs to be fixed. And I would also like them to move forward with that idea they suggested a long time ago and actually convert all of the regen items into abilities when you consume them. Take them out of your inventory, like pets or whatever.
Right, and where we have the different tabs in the inventory, have it go similar there, If not an ability, then put it in its own separate inventory. Like we have the mission inventory stuff.
Yeah.
Put it into something like that. That would work.
I'm just concerned. I think maybe the fact that it's not an ability has something to do with how it breaks that after death stealth effect, because it's an item you're clicking on. I think maybe if they converted it into an ability, you wouldn't have that problem. But I don't know. I just think they might be tied together.
Right, and then again, that'd be good. I'd actually support that idea. But then again, how hard would it be for them to code it and not break something else in the process? Like what if they inadvertently touch the other abilities tied to that.
I don't know. It was suggested at a cantina before, and they said that it's something that's worth taking a look into at least.
Yeah. Well, hey, if they said that, then that's promising, and I do hope so because you're right. I would like to see that happen too.
Yeah, that would be a huge quality of life improvement, especially for the people who like to hoard a whole bunch of them to show off. So, Janitor, what have you been up to over the last week?
Mostly leveling. Still working on characters with my son, and then my guild master from WoW. We've been doing stuff. It's funny because my son and I have been leveling light side, and she's leveling an Inquisitor dark side, and she made the comment of, "Gee, you guys are nice." She usually picks the dark side option. Like, force lightning in your conversations is so seductive.
I kind of went that way when I was leveling up with Paige, only she would go, light side is disgusting.
I did say that.
Yeah. Some of the Sith warrior, because my son's playing a warrior, light side are really interesting, and the responses you get, because like Barris will say, "Oh, that's actually pretty cunning to choose the light side option. It's not expected."
Mm-hmm.
So it's been fun seeing that from the other side, because when I leveled my warrior, she was as dark could be.
Yeah,
and of course.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and it was interesting that he and I leveled our first two characters together, and I was dark 5 on my warrior much sooner than he was on his Inquisitor, and we both chose dark. And it was interesting that the warrior is just nasty, and have all these options to be dark side well before the Inquisitor, and you'd think it would be reversed. So that was interesting how some of those classes don't balance in the options you get for light side, dark side.
If you play a Sith warrior and you just go, if you do your class story and do all of the planetary stories, by the time you get to level 50, you will be 10,000 out of 10,000 of either light or dark if you make the same type of choice the entire way. Whereas like the Inquisitor only ends up at like 7,000 out of 10,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
I ran my Inquisitor the first time, my Sorcerer. I literally had to run the dailies on Belsavis, because those give a lot. Back then, when the game first came out, I literally ran those every day and remembered what the light side choices were just to build that up and get there.
Oh, I know. I've got characters that I leveled early on. They're still not maxed one way or the other, just because they just didn't have the options, in that. And I did them before the 12 XP was around, so it's like,
What I started doing is, since a lot of my alts now, I don't need them to pick up a trade skill because I already have all the crew skills.
Mm-hmm.
I normally pick up diplomacy and use that to at least max out light or dark side, and then I drop it.
Yeah.
And
So I remember at times diplomacy used to give you like 34.97863.42197 light side or dark side points because I didn't round it correctly. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, I still got some screenshots of that. It was just bizarre. It was like, what is this game engine doing?
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that about the Sith Warrior story and the light side, dark side options. Because it's funny, because my Marauder is light side, full light side. And when I first played her through, and then you look at the decisions that you make for light side choices, and it just, part of it amazes me that the light side choices the warrior can make, to me, a lot of them are like the pragmatic kind. They're more practical. If a Sith warrior actually took time to think about something, like, you know what, no, that doesn't sound right. Let's try this instead. As opposed to the other choices are the heat of the moment, in that full hate mode, and they make those decisions. As opposed to, wait, give me a few seconds. Let me think about this. No, we'll do this instead.
Yeah, light side seems more pro-Empire. We want the Empire to be strong, whereas dark side is, screw the rest of you, I'm going to be powerful.
Yeah, it's you and it's you as Malgus going, welcome home, and striking down your master. Oh, look, see, that's Korriban. You just see it. Great. Bye.
Well, ironically enough, with the Sith Warrior, when you're doing the class quest on Korriban, if you don't do a mixture of light and dark choices, then you won't get the highest praise you can get from your instructors there. Like, there's one test specifically where he sends you to the jail to make those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do a mix, then he always has something to complain about. But if you choose correctly, he will praise you very highly when you come back.
Yes, I remember that. It's one of them. You've got to pick dark side, otherwise he gets all bent out of shape.
And there's one point in the class quest further along. I forget where exactly it comes because Sith Warrior was literally my first story I ever did. But depending on which alignment you're going with, you will meet a force apparition of yourself that is the other alignment and tries to convince you to switch your ways. And
Yeah, we've done that one. It was interesting to see it light in the dark. And because my character was dark, she basically chose the option of, no, I'm basically damned, and I know it. And I choose to walk this dark path, which was, I thought, really a nice beat for the character. Instead of just being a brute, it's like, no, I've made choices and I know I can't undo them. So I'm just going to keep digging that hole deeper and deeper.
see, when I did it the first time, I was leveling up my Sith Warrior to light side, and he pretty much banished the darkness when that happened. And then I had a Marauder that I was leveling up dark side, and when he faced that force apparition, I kind of wondered how it would happen, because on the light side guy, when I refused to embrace the darkness, I had to fight that force ghost. Well, when the light side one appeared to my dark side Marauder, he's like, you can still atone for your ways and all this stuff. My Marauder had been dark side all the way through, and then this ghost of him shows up and he's like, you can be light side, like I am what you can be. And he's like, you can atone for everything you've done. And my guy's like, that sounds good. All of a sudden, this ghost steps into my dude, and you just see all this darkness purge out of him, and he just starts glowing like light. And see, I would have liked if they scripted that, so if you did that, your light dark at least reset back to 0.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be a nice feature to put in there.
Yeah.
It would have been fitting for the class, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be your first decision either way. Put you back to 0 points and 50 light or 100 light or 100 dark, whichever way you went. If
Right.
you chose to switch at that point.
Yeah, that would be fun. And the other thing, leveling my agent, it's so many twists and turns in that class. I've leveled one agent. She was initially light to the end of Chapter 1, and I actually used a light side option to talk the avoiding spoilers here, the Chapter 1 villain down.
Mm-hmm.
And then the events of Chapter 2 sent her totally dark because of all the
Yeah.
stuff that happens to you, the mind games. I would use a stronger term, but we'll just say mind games. And so she ended up being very, very dark. And at the very end of Chapter 3, it's like, you guys want this item? Bam, I'm just going to destroy it. And Khalil loved that. But when I did it now, doing light side, I got to the same point, and it's like my options were different. And it's like, wow, this, the nuances that they've added to some of these class stories, I love going back and redoing it. It's been a lot of fun.
Don't give it to Arden Koth.
You do, just don't give it to that guy.
Oh, yeah.
I like
Well,
at
is
the
it-
end, that final scene that you see there, where you got the option to kiss that person, and they really wanted that to happen. My dude, when I went through light side, it was all sentimental like that. But when I went through dark side, I didn't even give that person a chance to do the final reveal, so you never find out that secret. My dude just wasted him, dropped him right to the floor. That's great.
I watched him do that, and it was amazing.
Oh, man, that's funny. Oh. Yeah, no, I just love the interplay. Some of my best moments was when I finished the Jedi Knight story, and all my companions got affection. So I'm sitting there, because you're on the high anyway of the Jedi Knight end. And I'm talking to Doc, and this other companion walks in, and she so skewers Doc. It is just hilarious. I just laughed and laughed. So, it just, like I said, just playing the characters, enjoying the stories, it's just so strong and fun.
You mean when Doc comes in there and she's like, Archibald?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, just call me Doc.
Right. That was funny. But no, this was Kaleo who came on the ship to be his hostage. And that was funny. And she would like, Kaleo just skewered Doc. It's like, oh, the Jedi must be slumming to have this guy around.
Wow.
Oh. Yeah, if you ever feel like getting the affection with Doc, that's a classic conversation.
Nobody wants the affection with Doc.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, my Sentinel. Once I got Tariq on my looking pain, he's like, my other characters. Goodbye, Doc. You're just staying on the ship forever.
No, not even Tariq. Let me tell you what I did recently. When they added the ability for the ship droid to hold a blaster.
Yeah, he told me. Yeah,
I seriously geared up my ship droid, and I put Doc in a sand person outfit and left him standing where he is. And I'm like, all right, there we go. All right, what's your face? T7, Kira, sand person. All right, roll call. Everybody's here. Just random sand person on the Jedi show.
Hey, how are you? Welcome aboard. I'm Doc. Oh, yeah, sorry.
I've seen the Power Rangers. I know if I kick you in the chest, you go away. All right, so what do we have for our discussion topic tonight, Lou?
Okay, as Paige mentioned earlier, tonight's discussion topic. This is actually our own take on the topic, and full credit goes to Kid Lee from the SWTOR forums, and Kid Lee posted a question: is it time for a new class? All right, so if you go to the forums and you see it's in the general discussion portion of the forums, you'll see that exact post. That's the thread title. And what he's done, he's actually made an audio commentary, runs about 8 minutes on YouTube, where he proposes his idea. Okay, and it is just that: is it time for a new class? And he goes over some of the pros, obviously some of the cons as well. And I thought, that'd be a good topic for us to talk about tonight, because, as you know, the game is almost, approaching 3 years in existence. And for a lot of MMOs, usually around this time frame, or maybe by the fourth or fifth year of an MMO's existence, you will usually see that game studio release an additional class or two, or depending on what they've done, a new class that will inject it into the mix of the game to breathe new life and to give players a fresh start at experiencing the game again, but with obviously a new class, new powers, new abilities that the others didn't have before, to help reinvigorate and keep current players, attract new, old players back, and again attract a new player base, because now they have, they may have passed on this game because they didn't have a class that they felt they'd like to play. But obviously, if you introduce a new class, you spark interest, because you'll have folks looking at it and say, I'm going to check this game out now because they have something that I'd like to, to experiment and work with in this game, in this genre of MMO. And so that leads us into the topic. All right. At this point in time, do you think it is time for BioWare to start thinking about, or maybe they have it in the works, but do you think sometime, not right away, obviously, but do you think it's time for BioWare to start thinking about introducing a new class into the game?
Now, before we actually dive into this, I'm going to give the Cliff Notes version of what he goes over in his video, but I do recommend actually watching it and listening to his ideas, because it's pretty in-depth and he covers a lot of his bases. But I will say two things. First, in his idea, his base concept is that BioWare adds 2 genuine new classes, where there's new class story involved from 1 to 50 and beyond. Like, new classes from scratch. And the other thing that I wanted to reiterate is, back when the game first went free to play, this is the only comment we've had from a BioWare employee at all, was from Jeff Hickman, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact quote. But somebody asked him about the possibility of SWTOR having new classes at any point in the future, because they implied that it would never happen because the game was going free to play and didn't have a huge budget in the way that the class stories are presented. And Hickman said that if SWTOR ever added new classes, they would come in the form of new advanced classes for the base classes that are already in the game. So, with that in mind, Paige, do you think that this game is ready for new classes?
Ready? Yes. That's the only part of that question that I'm going to give a yes to. Is it going to happen? No.
Play?
Ready, but I don't see it coming from level 50. I could see them introducing a class at max level or a new advanced class for various existing classes, but man, redoing all the stories, because then all of a sudden you're starting to touch all the planetary arcs and everything. That's a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah, and Lou and I were kind of talking about this off air before the show started, and one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that if you were to add a new class from scratch into the game, all of the planetary quests, the planetary arcs, the side quests, even the dailies, when they talk to your character, they have something that they refer to you by that is based on your class. Which means if they added in a new class, like, say, Imperial Janitor, then every NPC would refer to you as the Imperial Custodian suddenly. Which means they would have to get back every voice actor that ever voiced a quest NPC, or re-record all of the quest dialogue for every NPC with a new voice actor. Which, let's face it, that isn't going to happen. Now, what I do see as a viable option would be that they add a new advanced class. That seems like the quickest and the easiest route for them. They could just pick a base class that they want to expand. Like, for example's sake, like I've said in the past, let's say they go with the Jedi Knight and the Sith Warrior. Then when you hit level 10, instead of just being able to pick between Guardian and Sentinel, you have a third choice. Whatever they choose that to be. Say, Jedi Crusader. So then it works the same from level 1 to 10. As soon as you hit 10, you open up the discipline page and you got 3 branches for that one particular class. And you can pick a third option, which would more than likely be a Jedi Knight that can use a double-bladed lightsaber. Because I imagine that's what they would do, is expand upon the weapon types that the base class can use.
Or maybe once you reach like level, let's say 70, maybe your advanced class could potentially morph into, a super advanced class or something like that. So it plays differently or feels differently. Kind of like how KOTOR 2 did. You reach a certain point and you could kind of branch off from the class you were going, if I remember right.
Yep.
I like that. The only thing that I could see not being a positive if they go that route is if they were to add in a new advanced class, they can put it as a bullet point that they added a new class and possibly lure in new players because, I only got to get to level 10 to play as that. That sounds cool.
True.
Especially some of the people that are from, Galaxies or any other Star Wars game where they're like, I want to play a heavy armor wearing Jedi with a double-bladed lightsaber and currently can't do that.
Right. Yeah, and as Fred mentioned, we were talking about this before off air because we were actually listening to the video because it's just an audio commentary with some visual stuff on it, but it's mostly just an audio commentary where Kid Lee proposes his ideas, and in theory, it's a great idea. I mean, I would wholeheartedly support it, and I do wholeheartedly support it. Where, as I was telling Fred earlier, a lot of players have been asking for a long time. Obviously, we want new, unique story, okay? And at some point in every MMO's lifespan, they always, I would say always, but a lot of MMO studios have introduced new classes into their games, into the mix, to again reinvigorate the game, okay, to spark interest again in not only in attracting new players, but to keep the interest of the current player base, and to hopefully get those players that left, to help get them back, say, hey, you know what? You may become jaded and bored with playing the classes you're used to already, but come back, resub, do whatever the paying model is, free to play, buy to play, subscription, what have you. Get that portion of the player base back, and hopefully retain them, okay, or at least get them enough, have them playing long enough to where they enjoy it, and it makes a positive impact in that company's earnings. It was worth their time to do it because, hey, you know what? They got someone who left previously. They came back in 3 or 4 months to play that storyline. Okay, fine. They've made something back in their investment for that. And as TOR approaches its 3rd year, okay, and again, not something that you have to do right away, but I think maybe it's something that they should start looking into. To again, just to cover what I just said, to help spark interest for attracting new players, especially now that we have we have episode 7 coming out in a few months. All right, maybe tie into that to where the initial fan rush and enthusiasm will spill over into 2016 because obviously Force Awakens released in December of this year, 2015, and so maybe try to take advantage of that Star Wars hype, that fan euphoria from not only carrying to 2016 but maybe something for 2017 as well. Because remember, they've also released through the dates for the next 2 movies as well. And again, to go back to what Fred said, we have classes. We have players that want to take these classes and do other things with them. All right, because if you've played KOTOR 1, KOTOR 2, you could have had a heavy armor wearing Jedi who was dual wielding, or using double lightsaber, or just single hilt. Didn't matter. Whatever you wanted to do, you could do it. And I think that's something that could work here. If you're not going to introduce a completely unique story, brand new, spanking fresh story, then as Fred mentioned before, what Jeff Hickman said, I think the easiest route for them to do would just introduce a new advanced class. That way, it's easier to integrate them into all the storylines. I mean, it'd be easier to integrate into the overall Jedi Knight story. Now you have Jedi Knight, where you can branch off to what? Guardian, Sentinel, and the 3rd one now. And it would still keep in line with your title. From the planetary quests to the class stories. All right, you'd still be addressed as Master or Jedi, and it'd still be correct. And same thing with Sith Warrior. You'd be addressed as, My Lord, or eventually, spoiler if you don't know, Wrath. All right? And it would all still be correct, and that would take a load off their resources because they already have that voice content in the game. All right? And Fred and I were discussing earlier, because Kidley brings it up, the resources that those characters would need are already in there. The armor assets, the gear assets, weapons, everything is there that they would need already. They would just have to adjust it and make it reflect the fact that it can be used for this class now as well. Because can you imagine saying, oh yeah, here's your 3rd class, but wow, it's only for a Sentinel, Guardian, and oh, so sorry, you're out of luck. Gamorrean axe for you.
Well, I think that they'll do something like that. They would add in that 3rd class for the Jedi Knight and Sith Warrior, but then all of the double-bladed lightsabers would still have willpower stuff in it, and you'd have to actually get one and modify it.
Yeah. So I really hope if if this does go forward, if Fire does pick up on this and say, you know what, that's good, we're going to use it, that they would actually fine-tune to make sure that doesn't happen. To where it's going to be the correct stats, like strength.
Well, I do believe if that happened when you first picked your advanced class, you would get that bag like you always do, and that bag would have one that has strength stuff in it. But when you're doing all of the old flashpoints and stuff, you're still going to be getting ones dropping that have willpower in them because there weren't strength versions at that time. You'd have to get into the current content to get one that has strength stuff.
Well, again, I'm not claiming to be a programmer, but maybe, like I said, since the assets are already in the game, if they're already changing those items to reflect the fact that it can be used by the 3rd class, then I would hope too, as well as while they're doing that, they're also adjusting the loot tables in the game to reflect that. Oh, by the way, yeah, these are the loot tables on Balmora. Ugh. These are the loot tables on Tatooine. Again, double ugh.
Double ugh.
Hate those planets. All right, and same thing, on Alderaan. That say, all right, these are loot tables for these planets, these zones. Cool. We just have to make sure that this new advanced class can actually use those items and have the correct stats allocated for that.
Well, you would hope that, but, this is the same company that just reduced all of the mods, enhancements, and armorings cost to 2 basic comms on the fleet, but they still cost 7+ on the planets.
On the planet. Hey, they want you to go to that central hub, man. They want you to hear that player chatter in zone, fleet chat. And
this is the same company that just added level 7 oranges, where they added, say, a blaster rifle and made it usable by Imperial agent and trooper, but it has aim stuff in it. So I wholeheartedly could see them just being like, well, there's double-bladed lightsabers in the game, just get one and change the stuff in it. You know,
to the class stories.
Right.
You know, just put it at key points where you get certain upgrades, and because they're showering us with comms, you could still go buy the appropriate mods.
Yeah, I don't think they would update the class story rewards either. Like, when you get to the certain parts of the Jedi Knight and Sith Warrior story, when they're like, here's a single-handed lightsaber for you. I don't think that they would remember to be like, okay, well, we need to add a double-bladed option there.
Right. Or
Because,
in fact, hey, we know you're a Sentinel or Marauder, but you're only getting one.
Yeah, well, yeah. They do that, even.
Yeah, I remember.
Like, here's one. And by the way, you're not going to be able to find another lightsaber anywhere that matches it.
Yeah, but again, we bring this up because this player Kidley does bring up some good points. And the other example, one of the examples he did use too, was the players have been asking for as well for the Republic's version of the agent and the Imperial version of the trooper. Okay, and he uses those two as well. Those two examples, saying, hey, you know what? The Republic has intelligence as well, has an intelligence arm just like Imperial intelligence. Why haven't we showcased them? All right, you already have the gear set, the stats that the agent uses. Just transplant that over to the Republic side and just make it so it's the Republic agent now. It's the SIS agent. And there's your mirror. And then same thing with the Republic trooper. All right, when we saw those awesome trailers, game trailers, who's Havoc Squad cutting down on the Forest of Alderaan? Yeah, they're shooting at Imperial soldiers, Imperial troopers, just like them. So, obviously the iconic thing first to do would be the Jedi Knight and the Sith Warrior. Okay, then the Consular and the Inquisitor, but then bring in the agent and then the trooper versions for the opposite factions.
See, I don't know how that would work out, though, because even so, like, you could have an Imperial trooper, but if that's the case, what's going to be the mirror for that on the Republic side? Because
yeah, see,
you can't just be like, okay, well, the Republic trooper is suddenly the mirror for the Imperial trooper, because the Republic trooper is already the mirror for the bounty hunter.
Right. Yeah, and see, that's the thing. I mean, these are some of the points that Fred and I talked about before off air, is the fact that inadvertently BioWare painted themselves into a corner.
Yeah, with all of the specific voice acting, where all of the side quest NPCs and stuff refer to you by your class, they made it really hard for them to add a new class.
Exactly, because again, remember, as you go into the story and you're leveling up, you're always going to refer to as agent, as Jedi, or whatever your title is, the generic title. That way, of course, they're not going to call you by your avatar name, so they give you the generic title. And yeah, that would be, at some point, it would just be like creating a whole new game again, because maybe the cost would jump that high. But again, as this player was suggesting, they could cut back on expenses because they have these assets already game that are present that they can use and recycle to help build and support these new classes that they bring in.
Yeah. Some of his ideas, though, just, they would never happen. Like his one idea about having somebody start as a trooper on Ord Mantell, and then when you get to the end of the story, decide whether you want to be Republic or Empire.
Right.
Like,
That's to me, that sounded exactly like an offshoot of the original version, the vanilla version of EverQuest 2, where you had the Betrayal quest before you hit level 20, where you had the option to actually, instead of becoming a high elf paladin, you could say, you know what, I'm going to change my mind, defect, and then at level 17, I'm going to do the next 3 levels and do the Betrayal quest, and then level 20, now I'm going to become a high elf Shadow Knight, which is really cool, by the way. No one suspects that. And that's exactly the situation he's proposing, which, again, would be, that's not a bad idea. But, again, how would you work that into the current storyline, because everything's already built and done?
Oh, not just storyline. I think when you talk about something like that, you're getting into the core systems of the game. Like, we don't even have the ability to add people to our friends list that are cross-faction and send them whispers, let alone be able to change factions on a character.
Mm-hmm.
So I think certain ideas that he had there just get rolled out right from the get-go just by the game systems and tech limitations.
Right.
But
We're not knocking the idea itself,
he has
but it's
great
a good idea.
ideas, but it's just you would need an extraordinary budget to make some of those things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And resources.
Well, if you had a huge budget, you could get the resources.
Well,
But
supposedly they have resources now, and they just spend time twiddling their thumbs. That wasn't what I was going to say, but that's what came out. Good on me.
You know, Paige would be like, you know what? You know, I could just edit the stories for you guys.
I think at some point we're going to see the new advanced classes thing, because in a situation where they were to add new story, you don't just add one class. You have to add two so that there's a mirror. And both of those have to have advanced classes. Whereas when you're talking about just adding a new advanced class, you don't have to worry about coming up with a mirror because there's already one there. You just have to add a skill tree, basically.
Right. Or even better, you know, just to another proposal coming from this, you know, something that EverQuest 1 and 2 have used in Galaxies and you know, World of Warcraft, the alternate advancement system. Or in lieu of a new class or advanced class that we're talking about, maybe help further differentiate between the classes, advanced classes that are currently in the game, by introducing that alternate advancement system. Okay, kind of like, you know, we've all seen the discipline system now. Okay, discipline trees. Introduce an AA system to where we can invest points into, you know, if we invest 10 points into alacrity, great, then we gain a 0.1 or 0.5, whatever, more speed for our casting. All right. Same thing with defense. Okay, with a shield. Okay, health, maybe our crit to help further strengthen our characters. Or maybe as an alternative to where if a player really can't afford augments at this point, well, should be able to, but again, maybe to help build onto the augment system that we have. All right, make your characters even stronger. Okay, make them feel that more heroic, that more powerful in game. Where you still see growth, you still see progression because you're having these AA points dumped into your stats or whatever, and you can see, you know, quote unquote, see the tangible difference when you're playing your character in game.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a good idea, but I think that BioWare's approach to that was the legacy system.
Mm-hmm.
Because they believe in the whole advance your whole account rather than advance just your character. Because this is the game they want you to play a billion alts all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And if they added in an AA system, I think they would lose a lot of people because people don't have that mentality of working to build up one character anymore. I mean, look, people cry and get upset about having to get all the data crons on multiple characters. Nobody's going to want to grind AAs in this game. They're just not conditioned to do that in this generation of gamer.
True, but then maybe it would help if, you know, how if the way you design a quest, the way you write it and have it done, you know, for a lot of games, whether it's single player or MMORPG, what have you, if you keep the player's interest that high and you get them that excited for it, they won't see it as a grind. But then, you know, that therein lies the challenge, making it so interesting, make it so much fun for the players that they don't care because they don't notice it, or they realize, hey, you know what, I've had so much fun doing it, I don't care doing it again.
That works. I think that works really well for your more dedicated hardcore players because they can see that. But kind of from the more casual, an advanced class kind of gives a more visceral impact. It's like, oh, I'm something different now, you know, because if they can make it play different, feel different, you know, like you could add a sort of a Imperial trooper to the bounty hunter story where they're like, you know, small unit groups. You know, you're kind of like the hit and run commando type. And I know I'm really bending the heck out of the bounty hunter story. And like you could, on the Republic side, you could have an SIS agent who's pretending to be a smuggler and following along that line and still maybe have a few little one-off quests. So you go and say, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm finding out about this stuff as I'm following this other, you know, the main smuggler storyline. But yeah, no, alternate advancement could be interesting, but I have a feeling a lot of people would end up saying it's more like, oh, these are just more, skill points that I'm doing.
Well, if you're going to do something like alternate advancement in this game and make it work, I think that it needs to be something similar to how the legacy system works, where you earn levels, or in this case it would be points, for your entire account. And it adds very, very, very minor boosts to every character on your account.
Or you work to unlocking instead of one of your legacy abilities being in the heroic moment, you could use it all the time or something like that, maybe. Or a modified version of it, possibly, because they're already in the game.
Or perfect idea, you grind points, and every increase that it gives you are only active when you have a companion out on your characters. Then it's not overpowered to the end game with operations and flashpoints and all that, but you get a tangible benefit when you're playing the game solo or with a partner.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Anything that makes you feel like a badass when you're soloing or in small group content would be cool.
Yeah, like the badass points in Borderlands 2.
Yes. Oh, badass. Sorry.
Oops.
All right, but I think this is a good point to go ahead and move into our Star Wars recommendation of the week.
For those interested in actually getting a look at the recommendation of the week, I will be posting a link with a photo on the Facebook wall. This week I have something that comes from our website called Our Nerd Home, and it is a DIY Wampa head. And I'm going to read what they have posted on their website. Hey, look at that. We have a huge DIY Wampa head mounted over our fireplace. Here's how to make it. As you know, this is a Wampa. They link you to a picture. You might have seen some of the Photoshop taxidermy Wampa head pictures floating around the interwebs for the past few months. We saw them too and said, yep, a Hoth-based Star Wars carnivore head would look great over our mantle. That's a reasonable thing that people say, right? We set out to keep the costs low and build the head with common household items, plus some faux fur. Total cost for the project was under $20, even less if you don't add the fur. It took a few hours to make, plus a lot of drying time. It measures approximately 20 by 35 and 17 inches deep. Here's what you need: cardboard boxes, newspaper, tape, paper towels, flour, craft glue, paint, which is acrylic poster paint, scrap wood, white fur, which is optional, and wood grain contact paper, which is also optional. It's basically a papier-mâché cluster F of a Wampa head that looks really amazing, and I would love to have that over our TV instead of that deer that's there.
Well, this will not be replacing that deer, but we could probably build one of these to put in the computer room.
I would love it, and I feel like I kind of want one of the ones that the fake, it looks like a bear rug, but it's a Wampa. I want one of those too.
I kind of feel like we're going to build this on a much more miniature scale, so it'll look like a little Wampalope hanging on the wall.
A Wampalope.
Like those little jackalope heads.
What you got there? A Wampalope.
They exist? They're a
Baby
brand new
Wamp.
species?
Killed on the icy terrain of Hoth.
This was Yoda's mount.
Quick, somebody call History Channel.
All right, Lou, what do you got for the intelligence report this week?
Okay, this intelligence report is going to be pretty brief this week. And it's going to be about the Terran Tatek feeding on the Force. Or in the words of Disra Lurjada, the Terran Tatek is a predator, and we Jedi are its prey. Simply put, the Terran Tatek were creatures which fed off the blood of Force sensitives, and inhabited caves and tombs strong with the dark side of the Force. Several guarded the entrance to a section of Naga Sadow's tomb. If you play the game, you know exactly where they are. They suck. Biology. Terran Tatek resembled Rancors, except they had a number of spines growing from their backs and a pair of flaps, or tusk-like projections attached to their mouths. They also had massive claws, 4 to a hand. The tusks and claws of a Terran Tatek were highly venomous. It was theorized that they were once Rancors, subjected to mutations by the Sith. When the dark side was weak in the galaxy, Terran Tatek could hibernate and remain dormant for many years, only to return when the dark side was strong again. Alright, and they do have a subspecies. By the time of the Cold War, which is the time frame of SWTOR, the Terran Tatek had developed. and one larger subject, possibly a variant of the species, was found in the tomb of Nag-Sadao protecting the Dashad chamber, the Terrantotec Mauler. And here we have a brief history, or in the words of Luke Skywalker, some say they are the products of Sith alchemy. Others think they were simply rancors twisted with dark-side energy. Regardless, they are aggressive and deadly. The first prototype of what would become the fearsome Terrantotec was first seen on Tython centuries before the rise of the Republic, when the Jedi Master Quan Jang, trying to craft a creature able to sense explosives during the Despot War, alchemically created Terranta. However, the Terranta eventually developed a taste for Force-enriched meat, and thus began targeting Force users. At some point, they were deposited on Tython's moon of Bogan, where they prowled the surface. The first recorded encounter with a modern Terrantotec occurred on the jungle world of Dromund Kaz in 4904 before the Battle of Yavin, when the link between the Terranta and the Terrantotec was long forgotten. While clearing a section of the planet of jungle and hostile wildlife, the human Odile Viking fought and slew a modern Terrantotec. Some sources reported that the modern version of the Terrantotec evolved on Korriban, where the power and presence of the dark side of the Force gradually distorted their shapes and corrupted their minds. The Sith Lord Exar Kun was also reported to have created Terrantotec through Sith alchemy. A Terrantotec's hide was highly resistant, in some cases even immune to the effects of the Force. They became the most dangerous of the creatures bred by the Sith. They were so powerful and dangerous to the Jedi that they were often dubbed Jedi Killers, and Kun used the monsters to destroy Jedi outposts on Tatooine, Kashyyyk, and Tython. During an event known as the Great Hunt, numerous Jedi traveled throughout the galaxy to try to exterminate the Terrantotec. Jedi were often sent in groups of 2 or 3 to battle these beasts, and the Jedi of the group had a strong Force bond between them. This was done so that the group could strengthen itself from the dark influence prevalent in the layers of the Terrantotec, and it had to rely on its own weaponry skills alone due to the almost complete Force immunity of the Terrantotec. None of the hunts were completely successful, however. Even though the Jedi seemingly exterminated a majority of the Terrantotec each time, the waxing of the dark side would trigger the Terrantotec to come out of hibernation and repopulate the galaxy. Such events included the rise to power of Revan, Malak, and Emperor Palpatine. Terrantotec were also found on Tatooine, Kashyyyk, Onderon, Dromund Kaz, Tython, and Yavin 4. During the Jedi Civil War, Revan and his companions found and killed a Terrantotec in Kashyyyk's Shadowlands while searching for the Starforge. It had been a ceremonial beast used in an old Wookiee ritual. In one such ritual many years ago, Baka's ceremonial blade had broken from its hilt and become embedded in the creature's flesh when a headstrong Wookiee chieftain had attempted to slay it. The blade was recovered by Revan. That's actually a pretty cool quest in the game. Revan also single-handedly fought and killed 2 Terrantotecs in the tomb of Nag-Sadao. There was also a Terrantotec in the Shahara caves on Korriban, which turned out to be near the entrance to the tomb of Ludo Kresh. Teneb Kel fought and killed a Terrantotec on the planet Lenico 4 in 3678 before the Battle of Yavin. One more developed variant was found in the tomb of Nag-Sadao during the Cold War, but it was killed by the recently released Kemval, imprisoned in the same tomb, and a powerful Sith acolyte. That would be you. And just as a side note, I wanted to expand further on the Great Hunt. Okay, the Great Hunt, again, was a series of events organized by the Jedi in an attempt to exterminate the Sith devotees, along with their creations left after the Great Sith War, such as Olan, giant Sith worms, and Terrantotecs, creatures native to Korriban which fed off the blood of Force sensitives. So not only were the Jedi going after the alchemical creations, but whoever was left of the Sith. None of the hunts were ever completely successful, and the Terrantotecs always slowly rebuilt their numbers, rising again whenever the Sith did. And a brief history of the Great Hunts, okay, at the end of the Great War, the Jedi Council realized they could not allow the creatures Exar Kun and his followers had spawned to remain alive, especially the Terrantotec, a creature that fed on the blood of Force-sensitive beings. Because of this, the Council organized a Great Hunt to exterminate them. The hunts were eventually abandoned by the Jedi Order because it was considered too dangerous, but 3 Jedi, Shayla Nur, Duran Keldroma, and Gun Han Suresh, were sent to finish off the hunt because they had a powerful Force bond, which the Jedi Council thought to be powerful enough to defeat the Terrantotecs. However, they were not successful. During their hunt, Shayla and Duran fell in love and were condemned by Goon Han. Not heeding his warnings, however, they remained lovers, causing Goon to leave them, fearful that their love would lead them to the dark side. Goon Han left them on Korriban, continuing to hunt alone while the lovers remained. Soon, they all came to a fatal end. Shayla and Duran were ambushed by Turn Tatex on Korriban, and in the process, Duran was killed. Shayla, overcome with grief, turned to the dark side and attempted to use it against Turn Tatex. This led to her downfall, as the crystal in her lightsaber could only be used by followers of the light. Without her weapon, she soon fell victim to the vicious Turn Tatex. Her body was later found by Revan during his quest for the star maps. After leaving the lovers in Korriban, Goon Han went on to Kashyyyk. There, he was also killed during his hunt for Turn Tatex. Neither party proved strong enough to overcome the threat. The splitting of their bond was their downfall. Fallen Jedi's task, however, was eventually completed when the Jedi Revan slew the Turn Tatex on Kashyyyk and Korriban. And this concludes the Turn Tatex. And as always, I wish to say thank you to Wikipedia, StarWars.com, TheForce.net, and other Star Wars lore sites that are out there. Folks, if you do enjoy the Star Wars lore as much as I do, please go to these sites, visit them, look up your favorite topics, or curious. If you're just curious to see some stuff in the Star Wars universe after, 3+ decades? Go to these sites, look them up, and enjoy.
So do you think there's any relation between Goon Han Suresh and Chancellor Suresh?
So are we going to do like 6 degrees of Chancellor Suresh?
I'm just saying, Suresh doesn't seem to be that common of a name.
Maybe. You know what? I'd have to play the game again, but I don't remember which species Goon Han was. If he was human or if he was he was an alien. Because I know, Keldron was human.
He was a Twi'lek.
Twi'lek, okay.
And so is Chancellor Suresh. And he's also a green Twi'lek.
And so is Chancellor Suresh.
Think there's any connection there?
I don't know. Remember, folks, when we postulated last episode, could Chancellor Suresh be
the voice of the
Emperor? Yeah, we need some of
what
that
is
Star Wars
this,
series.
the
music.
original Star Trek where we need to make a theme song with our mouths?
I know. I was going to say, the games have their own really cool, possibility music we can fit in there. There's got to be a soundbite out there somewhere like that.
Still alive, Pele?
Just muted. Just laughing so hard.
It's okay to laugh. You don't need to hide it.
No.
Don't be ashamed.
I definitely enjoy the lore segments. It's fun hearing about all this stuff.
Yeah, I pretty much learn something new every week. And I think it would be sweet justice if they took a whole bunch of these Tentalac things and just put them inside of Chancellor Suresh's room and they just mauled her to death.
Oh, bad.
Heck,
Tentalacs make me think of bad Japanese anime.
Yeah.
Those things with the tentacles are Tentalacs.
I'm surprised they haven't done it so far because, especially on Oricon, I was fully expecting to see the Dread Masters have creatures like that. I mean, we do have stuff that's pretty awful to begin with, but since they are Sith alchemy creations, yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool for them to introduce that mob into the game.
Don't worry, I'm sure we give it a couple more years, we're going to be getting a minty or a mini pet of one of those things in our mailbox.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Or depending on what the Emperor does, since he's been doing Sith alchemy with the monoliths, so
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
maybe that would be. It would make a more interesting fight instead of the traditional kill the Rancor that we've had so far.
No
Pelagius
weapon.
sets his mop bucket on your chair, Lou.
No weapon. Cool. Just grab a skull. Hit that button on the far wall.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it would be funny for like some of these special events like the Gree if they did something where for PvP they had you like be the Rancor against the team, as a for testing purposes. That would be a lot of fun.
Oh, kind of how Locho does the monster.
Monsters, right? Exactly.
Yes.
And hey, that'd be a way to introduce some of the stuff that people wanted from the Shevin event without actually bringing the Shevin event back. As a reward box. Make them super rare items. Be the Rancor against like 7 other people and see how well you do. And if you got the assets, use the bit of Karaga's Palace, and You could have fun stomping people or knocking them off into the ooze and things like that.
Yeah.
There would be a way of adding PvP to the game where, you could get the more casual folks playing it, is add a couple of PvP events to some of these, events like the Gree or the Rat Ghoul. Have a survivor mode in Rat Ghouls, Rat Ghouls versus survivors. And if Rat Ghouls kill a person, it pops them over to the Rat Ghoul side. As survivors, you're eventually going to die.
It's like that game Snakes in the Grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, or like Blaine just said, because we have other operations bosses too. You could be a Rancor, you could be a freaking huge hover tank, you could be whatever, any of the operations bosses.
Right, and the degree you're testing us, testing our combat ability, why not? There's your justification for a lot of things, or, like for the Rat Ghoul event, have Rat Ghouls versus, survivors. You've got the Kaon Under Siege stuff. How'd you like a survival war zone where you're moving through the darkness and stuff? You kind of a Left 4 Dead feel to it. A lot of the assets are there as far as art and stuff.
Yeah, and you could have it to where something, just expanding that particular idea of a Rat Ghoul thing, have it to where each faction's objectives are on the other side. And not only do you have to fight the opposite team, the opposite faction, you've got to fight off the Rat Ghouls too.
Now, these are great ideas, but you guys know what the one downside to these are, don't you?
They have to be implemented.
Yeah, they would actually have to spend development time on something
true.
PvP related.
Damn it. Sorry, Chuck, you're not going to get your sniper employed gainfully anytime soon with us. Damn it.
We're trying, Chuck.
Yeah.
We're looking out for you guys.
Waving that PvP-ness and nobody's grabbing on.
Wow.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move.
Have we gone beyond Peggy 13?
We're gonna move into the Community Hall of Fame, where we're going to test Palais as our truest fan, and he's going to tell us what the trivia question of the week is off the top of his head.
Oh Lord. I'm laughing too hard. Higher brain functions have shut down. Well, I can tell you, you need to submit your character name, your server, and your faction.
Wait, what is the question of the week? Why do our notes describe this?
Notes with him.
We didn't. That's the trivia.
He's got to go up memory. That's the that's part of the challenge.
I didn't remember from last week because, I'm on the show. It probably wouldn't be appropriate if I won the contest.
Well, nobody got it correctly this week. So if you happen to know the answer from last week...
I don't know. Sorry. Us Imperial custodians don't always get to see this stuff.
Do you need to phone a friend? We happen to have ID 10T here on the line.
You probably have a better guess than I do at this.
Figured he'd be friends with the janitor, don't you, Lou?
He makes a great mobile dustpan.
He's a great dustbuster.
He's secreting things all over the ship.
Right.
He's an Imperial dustbuster.
Top open and stuff the unsightly things inside.
All right, Paige, help him out. Tell him what the trivia question of the week is.
Each week, we're going to post a trivia question into our YouTube video version of the show. Simply go to StarWarsBeyond.com and we'll link you right to the episode. On the episode page, there will be a button you press to see the trivia question of the week. Alternatively, it will always be after we say our goodbyes. Then shoot us an email with your answer to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. In the email, include character name, faction, and server. If there's more than one correct answer, we'll do a random drawing to win a cartel pack. Everyone that answers correctly will be entered into a drawing for a much larger prize, which we'll draw on the show every few months. You can be entered into the grand prize drawing every time you answer correctly.
All right, play. One more time, what's the email have to have in it?
It needs to have your character name, your server, and your faction. Think of it like Ultima 4, where you had to say name, job, and then buy.
And what else?
Basically, your name, your server, and your faction.
And what else?
Oh, yeah. The correct answer. That would be preferable.
Yes.
Got him with that one 2 weeks in a row, Lou.
And unfortunately, no one got it this week. Close. Some of the answers were close, but no glitter stem cigar.
Want to give him one of those crappy cocktail packs that only has like half the things in it?
It's half open and half eaten. There you go. We got this for you.
Ew.
Here's all the crap I didn't want. Social boosts.
Oh my god. But yes, unfortunately, no one got it this week. Close, but again, no cigar. Yes, you get that sound that, the tractor beam machine made when Ben Kenobi shut it down. Yeah. There you go. Should we tell them what the answer was?
I think we should, because nobody got it, so...
Oh, damn. Okay. It actually is the Naval Academy at Press Belt 4. Okay? Press Belt 4.
What is that, mining school?
Yeah. However, the one answer we did get was close, okay? I'll say, to Chuck, that was close. However, Kurita is close, but Kurita is one of 3 academies out there that the Empire takes over from the Republic once Palpatine comes into power. Okay? And remember, as I mentioned, one of the clues, Kurita was not built on a mountain range, or near, surrounding a mountain range, and also not surrounding or part of a castle complex. Alright? And also, each academy was tailored to a specific skill set. Whether you're going to become an Imperial pilot, TIE pilot, or Army or Navy officer corps, and so on. And Press Belt's reputation is the fact that no matter the discipline, you would become the creme de la creme of the then the Republic, but then the Empire. Like the very best of what they were doing, of what their skill set was being trained at Press Belt Academy. All right. So again, great answers, but unfortunately, not quite there.
What do you think of the other thing he says there, where he says he gets a kick out of the fact that Kip Duran just got a slap on the wrist after blowing up the whole Kurita system and killing 25 million people, but he did say he was sorry.
He did say that's in the EU, folks, expanding universe storyline. Okay, I'm trying to remember. I think that was the time frame where Kip hijacks the Sun Crusher weapon, super weapon, and he uses it to destroy that system. And yeah, it's inhabited. All right. And at that time, he was still one of Luke's students. And yeah, he did apologize. He said he was sorry. All right. And just so you know, for some more background, if you haven't read that if you gotten that far in the storyline with the EU, yeah, Kip actually does fall to the dark side. Okay, and he becomes one of the New Jedi Order's one of the most dangerous opponents because he is so powerful. Okay, but he does come around, and always with the recurring theme of Star Wars, the redemption happens. Okay, and Kip then becomes one of the most powerful forces for good in the galaxy, one of the most powerful Jedi that's ever that's there at the time. So, yeah, that is funny though. He's he knew what he did. Okay, there wasn't much that the New Republic could do against him anyway, so it was pretty much up to Luke to decide what he was going to do. And within that time frame, Luke, of course, he's not vindictive, and he wasn't going to strike anyone out of anger or frustration. So, he understood the scope of what he had done, what Kip had done. But, what else could he do? But if he couldn't bring himself to destroy Kip. So in the end, he was able to bring him back. Help one of the few folks help bring him back to the light side. All right. And as you see it in the stories, when you do see some character glimpses into Kip's character, into his psyche, so to speak, in the stories, yeah, that's one of the great crosses he bears for the rest of his life. The fact that he knew he'd done something like that, and that's what drove him forward. From that day, once he realized what he'd done, to do whatever he had to redeem himself from that, because he did commit a lot of atrocious acts when he fell to the dark side, and that was one of them.
Kind of like Mitra Surik with Malachor.
Yes. Or with, Revan. Once you realize, oh my god, what did I do as Dark Lord of the Sith? You gotta be kidding me. If he chose to plan that way.
Revan's basically insane by the time you meet him in the Old Republic.
Well, you try being imprisoned tortured by the
Emperor.
for
It's just sad,
centuries.
though, to see that happen to him.
But again, we're not trying to do spoilers here.
Not yet. So, Paige, what's going on in our SWTOR community?
Check out our fellow SWTOR podcasts. Most of them are available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at SWTORnetwork.com. There's ToroCast at ToroCast.com, Corellian Run Radio at CorellianRun.com, UntiniCast at UntiniCast.com, SWTOR Escape Podcast at NewOverlords.com, The Usual Podcast at TheUsualPodcast.com. Old Republic Radio is on iTunes, Healing SWTOR on iTunes, Enmity Podcast on iTunes, and the Bad Feeling Podcast at badfeelingpodcast.com. Be warned, that's an explicit podcast. Also follow Madmar at SWTOR Family for the latest happenings in the SWTOR community. If you'd like to have your podcast listed on this segment, send us an email at StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com.
And now, one more time, I'm going to tell you how you can get a hold of us. You can find out more about our show at StarWarsBeyond.com. You can like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/StarWarsBeyondPodcast. You can send us an email to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. You can tweet the show at StarWarsBeyond. I'm at Sith Lord Corv. Lou is at GamerGuy11B. Paige is at Asa Fiery. And Play, our janitor, is at WowPiper. And now it's time for our final thoughts.
I like these ideas the community's bringing up. It's good to discuss this stuff, even if we think some of it's impractical. You know, ideas discussed can lead to other ideas that maybe stuff that BioWare can actually do, and at least we're showing community interest and support. And then for BioWare, please figure out what the hell's killing the Harbinger. One of these days, people are going to start a pool about how long the Harbinger will survive before the next crash if you don't fix that.
This is why I only have 4 characters on the Harbinger who haven't made it past level 12.
They need to do something there besides Sith alchemy about keeping it alive.
And this is why everybody on the Harbinger has at least 455s on other servers. And just so you know, Pelé, the Mirror class to an Imperial Custodian is a Republic corpse. They have the same abilities and worth.
Wow.
Oh. Well, I don't think the Republic side would clean up after Trig quite so well.
Sure they do. You just grab them by the shirt and slide them across the floor. They absorb it.
Eh.
Why do you think Jedi robes are brown so you can't see the stains?
And here I thought that just because I didn't bathe.
That as well.
Ooh. My final thought is yesterday at 7'3", I quit everything.
7'3".
7 feet 3 inches was the birthday of Peter Mayhew, also known as Chewbacca. He was born in 1944. That makes him 71 years old. Happy birthday, Peter Mayhew. That's my final thought. What up?
Didn't they replace him with CGI in the new movies?
No, they didn't.
Nope.
Really?
That is Peter Mayhew.
That's
and
Peter
like
Mayhew.
Did Danny DeVito reprise his role as R2-D2?
We're not even going to get into that. My final thought is I'm with Pelé. Kid Lee did bring up a really good topic for discussion, not only for the show, but he posted his original idea on YouTube and on the SWTOR general discussion forums. He brought up some interesting points. I really do appreciate the fact that he took time to weigh not only the pros but the cons with his ideas. All right, he wanted to say, yes, this is a great idea I have, but I realize these are limitations that are in place. But, with me, you can't let that stop the discussion from happening. You know what? It may seem impractical, but I think it's great that people are willing to, to voice their ideas, put it out there constructively, and just see what the community thinks and get that honest feedback because, as Paul said, you never know. At one point in the future, BioWare may say, you know what? We may not be able to do A, B, and C, but sure as hell we can do D, E, and F for the player base. Okay, so if they can't do all, at one point, they may be able to do some of it. And to me, we still win. All right? The developers get to keep, garner more player interest, release new content, and we as players, we win because we get new stuff. Okay? So, as for me, I would say, you know what? If you want to weigh in the discussion, folks, let us know what you think. Send us an email with your ideas and your comments on this.
And my final thought I still want a Cellcath companion. Beyond the Stars is an independently recorded fan podcast made in association with NSG Productions. And now it's time to say goodnight.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight. See you all again next time.
Good night, everybody. See you all again next week.
You've served your purpose.
Beyond the Stars trivia question for the week of May 20th, 2015. First clue. As a young child, my parents and I were forced to flee our homeworld to escape genocide. Second clue. On my new world, I faced discrimination from the human population who were the dominant species. Third clue. Sold into slavery to pay off my parents' debts, I would remain in bondage until a group of Jedi Knights freed me. Fourth clue. Discovered to be force sensitive, I went to the Jedi Order to be trained as a knight. Fifth clue. My supposed fall to the dark side was only a continuation of my Jedi trials devised by my master. Who am I? Alright, folks, please send us your answer to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. And in your email, please include your character name, what faction you're on, and what server you're on as well. And as always, good luck. Looking forward to seeing your answers.